Hello guys, today we are going to do VLSM subnets. VLSM stands for Variable Length Subnet Mask, where the subnet design uses more than one mask in the same network, which means more than one mask is used for different subnets of a single class A, B, C or a network. It is used to increase the usability of subnets as they can be of variable size. It is also defined as the process of subnetting a subnet. In VLSM, subnets use block size based on requirement, so subnetting is required multiple times. Assume that network administrator gave you this IP address with this CIDR notation and ask you to create 5 subnet for 5 different department. These are sales 57, finance 32, HR 23, IT 12 and marketing 9 devices. This is a class B IP address with CIDR notation 24. What is CIDR? CIDR is classless interdomain routing. That means regardless of any class, looking at the CIDR notation, you can identify which bits of IP address is for network and which bit is for hosts. Which class is this? The answer is class B. But when you do subnetting and find the CIDR notation like this /24, /25 or /27 and so on, do not care about which class is this. CIDR notation will decide how many bits for network and how many bits for hosts. So here our CIDR notation is 24. That means regardless any class, the 24 bits will be used for network and 8 bits will be used for hosts. Our requirement for sales department 57 host. So we count host bits from left hand side. Number of hosts per subnet is equal to 2 to the power h minus 2. H here number of zeros. How many zeros we need for 57? This 57 fits here. That means we need 6 bits for hosts. I take 6 bits from here and I draw a line here. And this 6 bit I'm going to use for hosts, and these 2 we are using for network. So they need to be changed to 1. Okay. Our CIDR will be changed here as well, because last time we using 24 bit and now we are using 26 bits for network. So this will be CIDR 26. What is our first network ID? Network ID always start from 0. First network ID will be this one. Zero. For next network ID, we have to find the block size. Block size is how many total IP address in each chunk of network. 2 to the power h. H is here number of zeros. So how many zeros we using? So block size is equal to 2 to the power 6. And 2 to the power 6 is equal to 64. So now our block size is 64. Block size 64, that means our network will increment it by 64. So next network will be 64. The next network ID will be 64 plus 64, 128. Now, what is the broadcast ID for this network? The broadcast ID for this network is just before the next network ID. The broadcast ID for this network is just before this network. So the broadcast for this network will be 127. And first usable host for this network is just next to this. So that will be 1. And last usable host for this network is just before the broadcast ID. So last usable host will be 62. And first usable host for this network is 65. Last usable host for this network just before the broadcast, so 126. In this image, from 0 to 255 represent the value of 8, which gives us 256 hosts. So we subnet this portion, these 8 zeros to 56, and the number of network 2 to the power n, so n is equal to number of ones. So here we use 2, so that means 2 ones, 2 to the power 2, and 2 to the power 2 is equal to 4, so we get 4 network. That's why I divide it into 4, this, and this. And the first portion I give to the sales department, and next portion I give to the finance department. Finance department looking for 32 usable host. So if we go for 5 bits for host, they will give 32, but one will use for network ID and one will use for broadcast, so they will get only 30, but we need 32. So that's why for the finance department also we give 6 bits, which gave us 64 hosts anyway. So this for finance department. And now HR department do not need 64 hosts, they need only 23 hosts. This portion is total 64 hosts, so I divide it into 2. So where will I get 32 IP address, and this I allocated for HR. And one more thing, that this department CIDR is 26, and this department CIDR also the same, because he also using 26 bits for network. So this also CIDR 26. So our requirement for HR department 23, and number of hosts per subnet. So 2 to the power h is equal to number of zeros. So how many zeros or host bits we need? So 2 to the power 5 is equal to 32. So we need 5 bits for HR department. So for HR, I take 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I draw a line here. So now 5 bits are using for hosts, and these 3 bits using for network. What is the next network ID? For next network ID, we need the block size. So block size is 2 to the power h. H is equal to number of zeros. So how many zeros we used here? We used 5 zeros. 2 to the power 5. 2 to the power 5 is equal to 32. So our block size is now 32. That means our network will incremented by 32. So now we will add 32 with this. So that will be 160. Now, what is the broadcast ID for this network? So broadcast ID for this network will be just before the next network. So broadcast ID for this network is 159. And first usable host for this network is just after the network ID. So that will be 129. Last usable host for this network is just before the broadcast, which is 158. For HR department, CIDR will be changed as well, because we are using 3 bits here for network. So 24 bits from here and 3 bits to CIDR 27. So now you can see that this portion I divided into 2, and this portion I gave to HR department, which network ID is 128, and the last usable host was 158. The IT department do not need 32 hosts. So our requirement for IT department 12. 12 fits here, so 2 to the power 4. So that means we need 4 host bits for IT department. So I take 4 host bits for IT department and I draw a line here. So now, what is our next network ID? For our next network ID, again, we have to find the block size. So block size 2 to the power h, and h is the number of zeros. So how many zeros we are using for IT department? 4 zeros. That means 2 to the power 4. And 2 to the power 4 is equal to 16. So now our block size is 16. That means our network will be incremented by 16. I will add 16 with this, and that will be 176. Now, our broadcast ID for this network is just before next network. So our broadcast for this network will be 175. And first usable host for this network is just after this, so 161. And last usable host for this network is just before the broadcast, so 174. So this portion, which is start from the network ID is 160 and last usable host 174, this is the IT department, and 160, then the last usable host is 174. CIDR for IT department will be changed. So now we using how many 4 networks? So now I using total. Here is 24 bits and here 4 bits, 28 bits for IT. So this will be CIDR 28. For marketing department, we need 9 hosts and our requirement 9 hosts. So it fits here 2 to the power 4. So we already have here. So we no need to chunk again. So we will give it to the marketing department. This network will be incremented by same 16 again. So the next network is 176 plus 16, which is 192. So the next network ID is 192. And broadcast ID for this network is just before this, so 191. First usable host for this network is 177. And the last usable host for this network just before this, 190. So this 176 network start from 177 and finish at 190. Last usable host 190. And this unused portion, his block size also same like sales department block size. I mean, its block size was 64. If you add 64 here, so that will be 192 plus 64, which is 256. So broadcast ID for this network is 255, and this CIDR is 26, same as the sales department CIDR. And we actually no need this one because here 256 ID is finished here. So actually there is no 256 network. That's all, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope this will be helpful. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you.